Our scene opens with Turk on a rooftop, dressed in treated clothing so dark blue that it's almost black. Black gloves, a shoulder mantelpiece that is high collared to cover the neck. When zipped, the mantle covers the mouth like a mask. The helmets that you were given are more like the top half of a mask, obscuring your forehead, your eyes, and your nose. And like always, it's raining. The skies are dark. The rain patters against the rooftops. But the camera moves away from Turk and towards Fishgut.
We are in a well-appointed office. The room, I think, reeks with oiled leather and the smell of old, fancy, gold filigreed books. And Fishgood is sitting, almost regal in the way that she bears herself, wearing the nicest clothes she has ever worn in her entire life. Very similar to that dark black, that dark blue getup that we see on Turk. She feels her body crackling with new energy. But she doesn't need any of that in this moment. Her blonde hair is pulled up into a tight ponytail with braids running through it because tonight's going to be busy and she needs it away from her face. But in this moment, she is thinking only about her words as she fiddles with the fish hooks that hang at her neck on that old leather cord.
On the opposite end of the room, standing beside an open door out into the hallway, we see a person who is big and not just for a woman. The mantle, similar to Turk's and Fishgut's, makes her shoulders look broader. The way she stands, though always confident, is even more imposing. Her hair is slicked back. The bruises have faded, as it's been some time since we last saw her. But she is standing with an unnatural stillness as she listens down the hallway for her quarry to appear.
We hear the boots clicking against the floor. And then we see a tall figure, a broad-shouldered figure, someone we've seen before in one of Turk's flashbacks. We see Ballard walking in. It's just his home. He doesn't have any weapons drawn. He's walking into his office.
Jeffrey Ballard. You know what? Jeff. I'm going to call you Jeff. And Fishgut leans forward. She's sitting in his office chair, this kind of high wing back with, gold studs pushed into the overstuffed leather. And she leans forward across this heavy wooden desk and clicks her fingers against the beautifully polished surface that reflects her back. Jeff, I think we're going to get to know each other real well in the next, I don't know, we'll see how long it lasts. You strike me as the kind of person who is so used to holding the line. I think it's time you learned what it feels like to be the one on the hook.
As Fishgut says that, the door slams, and Gracie steps in front of the door and crosses her arms and just looks down at him like he is a worm and she is a boot.
As Gracie has closed the door, keeping this man in with two significant adversaries, smoke or fog, or maybe a little bit of both, starts to curl along the ground, almost like a whisper of movement going with it, and it kind of starts to curl over his boots and up his legs. and then retreats a little bit as he moves again and start to try to, spread tendrils across his shiny, stupid boots. And from a space between bookshelves where no one else could have fit, the slip of Ephid slides out into the room and just slowly circles the desk to stand behind Fishgut. Their usually kind of hazel eyes are now just a little filmed over. Not fully, it's just like a hint of gray covering their entire sclera, pupil, iris, all.
There's no tremble in his voice when he says, "This isn't going to go the way you think it's going to go."
Perhaps I've experienced a failure of the imagination. Help me. Help me understand how you think this is going to go. Because from my perspective, I just feel the line jerking beneath me.
You see his eyes, he hasn't moved, but his eyes move from the desk to the two of you and then move to Gracie at the door. And he seems to wait a moment as if to see if it's just the three of you. And when he seems satisfied that it is, there's a moment where he's trying to place if he recognizes you. And you see no recognition in his face at all. And so there's a moment where he says, "So what is it you want? What do you think is, what you want? You want money?"
No, that's not how this goes. I asked you a question. Do you think, or maybe this is your terrible answer, do you think perhaps asking questions will get you out of this? Is that the way that this goes?
You may have fancy new outfits, but that dirt doesn't come off very easy. I see who you are. You're nobody.
That's good, though, because that means nobody killed you.
I think at that, flashing back to the roof that Turk is on, he is sighted down the barrel of his rifle, and under the faceplate sort of mask thing that he is wearing, his eyes look different. The pupils have widened drastically until the black covers almost the entirety of them. And as he reads the situation, as he sights down the barrel of the gun, he seems satisfied with what he sees, and he sort of stands up, takes the rifle in his hand around the middle, sort of throws it up in the air and catches it around the middle, and then turns on his heel. The edge of the long coat that he's wearing swirls, and he disappears in this swirl of black feathers. And a matching one appears by the window in the study, and he steps out of it. As he does so, he reaches up, and he takes the mask off his face, and he lets it fall to the ground.
We see the mask clatter, and the camera's focused on that for a second, and then as the focus shifts, we see Ballard's face, and there's a nod. So that's what this is about. I see.
Sir? Long time no see, or I guess, and as Turk is talking, he's advancing towards Ballard. Long time since I've seen you.
He smiles and doesn't back away. He faces you directly now, not caring about anyone else in the room, and he says, "You got the balls to pull the trigger this time?"
As Turk advances towards him, he's going to hold the rifle straight out in front of him and kind of like press it against Ballard's body. And if Ballard doesn't take a step back, Turk is just kind of going to lightly apply pressure, sort of push him. And I imagine at this point, Ballard can see his eyes, see the pupils that are like rapidly expanding and shrinking as he is looking at him. I think it gives him a certain like unhinged quality. And he's just going to keep walking forward basically until Ballard's back hits the wall, and he's going to keep talking as he does so, and he's going to say, "No, you don't understand. I'm not going to shoot you."
As Ballard's back kind of hits the wall, you see his hands have slowly been dropping down to his sides as he's backing up, and you see one hand kind of just shift to reach for probably a weapon of some sort.
Ephid hasn't moved from their spot behind Fishgut, but has been watching closely. The smoke is still kind of tendriling and winding around him, and as he's reaching his hands down into his pockets, three tentacles of it, for lack of a better word, form into sharp spikes. Two simultaneously just jam into his hands, through his hands and into his thighs. And the third one just kind of curls up over Turk's shoulder to poise at his neck. Not doing anything, just adding a little bit of extra menace. You hear from behind you, "He was trying something sneaky. I figured you'd had it under control, but a little extra pain doesn't hurt. Us."
He always is. Turk looks deeply into Ballard's eyes, the rifle kind of pressed against his chest, holding him into place. The barrel pointed up, but his hand nowhere near the trigger. And he says, "Say her name."
You're a dead man.
Say her name.
Is it better or worse that I don't know her name?
It's not better. It's not worse. Because you don't matter. You're nothing, sir.
I'm nothing.
Not even worth a bullet. And then Turk's knee is going to come up and hit the butt of the rifle, and it is going to unleash the pneumatic spike that Ephid installed into his gun.
There's almost a word that happened. It's a and then you feel the heaviness.
Turk is gonna wrench the rifle out of Ballard's skull and crouch down, use the edge of his dress uniform to clean the spike, and then stand up, using the rifle, and kind of very casually hit it twice on the ground as he does so that the spike retracts. Then step over and pick up the mask from where it fell.
I think as we see that mask being picked up, the screen goes dark. our scene opens in your safe house, in the mansion that you have been staying in.
I kind of hate to say it, but I'm liking Mr. Mansion a little bit more. It shouldn't feel good to do what we just did, but fuck, it feels so good.
It wouldn't feel good if they hadn't done what they did first.
No, of course not. No, of course not. But it feels good.
One less thing to worry about.
But it's a deal, right? That's what we got. Now we do what he wants.
Time to go after Kingsley.
And once it's done, oh, all this and more, right?
Move somewhere else. I don't know where. I'm not sure what else is anywhere.
We won't be scraping little pieces of peaches out of cans, that's for darn sure.
Kinda miss the canned peaches.
I will buy
Sure.
you as many fucking peaches as you want, kid.
Probably get a whole pallet of them, with the plastic still on them and everything.
Well, not just peaches. What does everyone else want?
Kids by the docks are always asking for bread. Good bread, fresh stuff.
We could learn to
With a
make
crunch.
bread.
Maybe we build an oven somewhere.
Yeah.
Whole last kitchen down by the docks, we can just feed everyone. Anyone that needs it.
Be cool. Sounds too good to be true. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't want it to be true.
Fucking make it true.
Real liquor. Not just whatever scraps you ferment in the rain barrel. Like around here, there's real spirits. Miss that.
Does it taste any better when it's real? Or does it still kind of taste like shit?
Still kind of tastes like shit. But the good shit.
I'll take your word for it.
I think Turk looks thoughtful for a second, like he's considering something, and then he kind of shrugs like he doesn't care who's listening and says, I think there's one thing that's still on my mind. He wants us to take out Kingsley so that he can be in charge. But we're powerful. We have all of the power that he wanted. And we're useful right now. But if we take out the person on top once, there's no reason he's not going to be thinking we could do it a second time if we wanted to. Once that's him.
Well, maybe that'll be a good incentive to not be shitty. Maybe
Oh.
if he's afraid of us coming after him, he'll be better about towing the line or whatever.
Maybe. But this is
That's what
just a job to
happens.
him. What's rule one? No loose ends.
Maybe we'll be his, you know, trained hounds.
You want to be?
No.
Fuck am I supposed to do if I don't have, well, a job?
We bake bread, remember? We bake bread and we feed everyone. That's our job. After this.
My experience, people who want power, there's something broken in them. They don't understand people that just want to bake bread. Doesn't make sense to them.
Well, then we have a contingency plan. Get the fuck out of Dodge. Job is done. We go somewhere.
Sounds
Oh,
good to
yeah.
me.
And we go together.
I think a little more loudly, enough that someone who's eavesdropping could hear. Turk says, safer for everybody.
Right. Either everyone behaves or we part ways.
And I think there's this moment where the camera was focused on you and it kind of pulls back just a little bit to the table in the center of the room where we see the blueprints of Avery's estate have been, unrolled. And we see sitting on the center table, various items are used as paperweights to kind of hold the corners. We see a book on one end, the cube on one corner. We see a piece of like the new crutches that Effin took apart. A piece of that is just stabbed into one corner of the table, and a knife is stabbed into the fourth corner, all kind of holding down the blueprints themselves. Blueprints that you've been studying for a few days now. And as the conversation kind of dies down just a little bit, you could swear you almost hear Harlow opening a jar of dirt and saying, okay, let's make a plan.
Fishgut's never been to, I think, like a bistro before. Like, bistro's a word that's never really left her lips. She's walked by them a few times when she slinked through alleys in like the fancy part of town, but they don't exist in the lower parts of the city. So I think there's this like nice bistro that serves coffee in the afternoons and then turns into a bit of a wine bar in the evening. And this is where she's meeting Elena, and Fishgut looks pretty different from how she normally does. Instead of wearing her kind of ratty hand-me-downs with patches and threads hanging off the edges, and instead of wearing actually that fine, beautiful black and blue kind of like tight fine cloth armor that she had on so recently, she's wearing a dress. It's simple but elegant. It's kind of almost well tailored to her body, something that she asked for Blackford to wear. But most significantly, her hair is brown. In that disguise kit that Blackford kind of offered to the group was some henna dye, and Fishgut went and washed her hair in it, so her somewhat noticeable blonde hair has been completely drenched in this kind of warm, kind of lovely reddish brown tone. She looks very different than she usually does, and instead of braiding her hair back, it's down, and it's an effort was made to curl it. It's a little bit pedestrian. It's a little bit clumsy, but she looks like a different person. And then, of course, she's wearing this mask over her eyes, kind of concealing the top half of her features.
We hear Elena arrive before we see Elena arrive because the heels are clicking. And all we really see, we recognize Elena from the flashback before, but she's not in, a robe to sleep or anything like that. She's in a very bright red dress. And as she approaches you, she does not say a word. She just holds out her arm. Kind of understanding that whatever this is, it's a favor she doesn't really want too many details on. And she begins leading the way. The camera sees Elena and Fishgut arrive at this estate, walk right through the gates, walk right up to the front doors, and enter. And Fishgut, you thought the manor you were staying at was big. These rooms, 2 floors of that manor could fit in this first floor. The ceiling is so high up. And that's the first impression when you walk in. There's the echo of people already talking. You hear the clinks of glasses.
Fishgut very rarely feels out of her depth, very rarely feels uncomfortable. But in this moment, she's very happy to have a mask to hide behind. I think her eyes are wide, her pupils are very much dilated, even though the lighting is bright, even though this place is just filled with opulence, like so many metallic surfaces, gold, silver, bronze, reflecting light back at her. She is uncomfortable, and she finds herself staying pretty close to Elena for a while. Maybe a bit too long, maybe longer than she wants, finding her footing, but then she sinks into people. She starts to listen. She starts to try to understand the flow of the room, almost treating it like her docks, watching people as if they're boats passing through, watching the servers kind of move through the room, seeing how individuals act with them, just watching the currents. She starts to feel a little bit more comfortable. And I think after she starts to sink into the people, that's when she starts to be able to spend time looking at the construction of the room, looking at the windows, looking to see, are there any skylights, looking to see where are the doors, how are the hallways aligned. So now Fishgut is kind of moving through, looking at the joint and casing it.
What would you like to roll for that?
Let's do a study cleverly.
Okay.
That feels good. All right. I rolled a 10 under 12.
Okay. So, you quickly realize this party is contained to just this one, rather large area, but people aren't going upstairs, people aren't moving off into any rooms. You actually see, militia standing at doorways, not allowing people access to certain rooms. This party is in this contained area. And I think while you were studying, the flow of people, Elena almost accidentally helped with that. It's the same thing every time, the same face every time, the same tone. Hi, fill in the blank of the name. It's good to see you again. How's, fill in the name of the family. Over and over and over, and you hear the answers are basically the same. Probably fake too. They're doing well. That's great to hear. Repeated over and over and over, and you would watch those people move on and have the same conversation with someone else. Move on and have the same conversation with someone else. There's the occasional person who has actually something new to talk about. Oh, my daughter just achieved this. And that is pretty loud over most of the crowd. And you hear it over and over and over. But you're watching. No one returns to the same party. Not for a while. And as you're watching this, no one really pays attention to those in the masks. It's the people without the masks that are important. The guards, they seem a little more concerned with keeping everyone flocked to this room. But I think with that success, you think if you were quick enough, or quiet enough, you might just be able to sneak up those stairs.
Fishgut pockets this for a little while, lets the evening drag on, lets the alcohol flow, lets people get complacent and tired in this interaction that they're having over and over and over again. And there comes a moment where she refines Elena. And Fishgut will lean in closely, I think maybe touch her on the elbow and squeeze a little bit so that she can speak softly and have her listen. Do me a final favor, and you will never see me again.
Okay.
Hit these boring fucking assholes with some piece of interesting gossip that they will drink up, and will make them watch, and will excite them for even 10 seconds.
She looks around. You see nerves. There's definitely like an anxiousness about this request. And in what part of the room should I be doing this?
Here or there, wherever feels most natural. I am not asking for specifics. I am just asking you to help me make sure we never have to talk again.
Okay. I need you to understand, if you get caught, we both get caught.
I won't.
Then goodbye, I guess.
And Fishgut, just with half a nod, walks backwards and disappears into the crowd,
We see
heading in the direction of the stairs.
We see Elena chug the rest of whatever drink she had, set it down on something, wipe her mouth, and then head over and start way too jolly. Start telling a story about the last house that was raided. That gets their attention. Their heads turn. And Fishgut, what would you like to roll to get up those stairs?
As Fishgut begins to move up the stairs, she feels like she's able to take 2 steps for every one that anyone else does as they mill about the room. Time slows for her, and her eyes kind of go a bit glassy as she moves upwards, kind of trying to thread her movements between the gazes of the guard. She's using the ability Bend Time. So with the idea being that she is slowing things down and making it easier for her to move, she would get 2 actions kind of in for every 1 action she would normally get in this span of time. This is going to be, I think, a move quietly.
Perfect.
And we see she didn't bring really any gear with her, but strapped to the inside of her thigh with that shitty piece of leather cord is a string of fish hooks and a charm made out of bone. And it glows as the swift arpeggio will also help her in her swift movement. So I get to re-roll a dice. This is so fucking good. So I need to roll under a 5, and I got a 4 and a 3. Thank you. Advantage. Fuck.
Okay, so you needed 1 success for this. You got 2 successes. So that means you gain a momentum.
Let's store it. And I think
Okay.
the group has 2 currently overall.
Okay. There's a moment. We see one of the guards that's kind of leaning up against the doorway closest to the stairs. We see out of the corner of their eye, they think they see something. They glance over, but you're already gone by then. And they kind of shrug it off and look back at the party, listening to this story. That sounds really familiar as you are disappearing up those stairs.
And the moment Fishgut, I think, is there a door at the top of the stairs?
There is not. It's open and it leads off into 2 different hallways.
Fishgut will go immediately, turns left, moving down that hallway, not even really thinking about who might be down it. She is looking for windows.
All right. Heading down, you do see a window at the end of this wall. You also see it curves up into another staircase.
Fishgut will grab the edge of that like heavy velour curtain covering that window and drag it open as she starts moving up the stairs. And any window she sees on her way as she's kind of moving, she is opening.
Yeah, and it's already, I mean, it's always dark here, but it's really dark now. It's the middle of the night, so anyone outside who was maybe looking for windows to be opened, you see those little spots of light appearing, almost like you can track Fishgut's trail through this mansion. Fishgut, you reach the top of these stairs and you can see it looks like a large, almost like study or almost like billiard room, maybe a little bit of both. You see places to lounge, you see shelves of books, you see various different games. There's a card table, and there's a door on the other side. There is also a window in here.
I think drawn to the games. Staying at Blackford's estate, Fishgut has started to develop a taste for games that require a bit more than a deck of cards in order to play, and she does feel drawn to that billiards table in particular. And so she will kind of close the distance between herself and that window, pulling open the curtain so that light from the mansion spills out into the darkness of the night, and then she'll turn to the billiards table.
Are you doing anything specific at that table?
I think she's watching. Maybe she grabs the cue ball and will kind of roll it back and forth between her hands, walking a fine line between knowing if she's caught in this space, she can play it off as having been looking for a good game, but also she's waiting. This feels like a good spot for her friends. And then she realizes, wait, this is a good spot for my friends. And she'll go and close the door for this room.
Meanwhile,
I think Gracie would have led the group to a spot on the outside perimeter. This compound is beautifully manicured, but that means that there are lines of sight everywhere. And prior to this, we've talked about the directions that Fishgut is going to go, so we don't have to traverse the whole thing over and over and over again. And so we're kind of camping out in what would be perhaps the northwest corner, watching for light. And then we see the twinkle as we're just sort of sitting at the base of this, like, massive stone and then wrought iron fence. And we can follow it until it stops at this billiards room. Gracie is the tallest of the group, I believe, and so she looks at the other two who are, waiting next to her as she watches over the gate and says, I think that's our cue. You ready?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can be.
All right. Mahalo then. And Gracie turns her eye to the massive window that has more glass than she has seen in her goddamn life. And in a puff of coal dust, disappears.
I think it's that same thing with Turk, that sort of swirl of the black feathers.
Similar to the fog that crept around Ballard, a new kind of deeper, darker fog swirls up around Effid, and when it dissipates, Effid's gone.
And we see those three things again as the three of you reappear inside of this room with Fishgut.
Any problems?
Up until now? No. These people, they live... I don't know, I've imagined myself at one of these parties so many times, and they just talk about the same 4 pieces of bullshit. Every time. It's sad. It doesn't feel like it fits in a place like this, but... And Fishcut finally realizes she's still wearing that mask, and will kind of put it up on top of her head so that you can actually see her face, leaving little indents around her eyes. I think it's time we put a little bit of actual joy in this place.
At least for us.
Have you seen him yet?
No, but I have seen his name. And Fishgut has been playing with a cue ball on that billiards table. She will roll it across the table. It'll bounce across the far edge. And then when it bounces back, kind of returning to her on a very specific angle, it'll sink itself in the pocket opposite her. And then she'll use that hand she had used to play with the pool ball to point towards a door adjoining the room. And on that door, it has a nameplate that says Avery Kingsley on it. If I had to make a guess, we're in, I don't know, his fancy boy playroom? Right off of his, I don't know, bedroom or office or whatever rich people have. I am constantly surprised by all of the different rooms that rich people have. I would like to have rooms.
Multiple
Soon you will.
rooms.
Yeah. We'll
Why
have to get
don't
one of
we?
these.
Why don't we find out? And I will spend another mana. Turk will take a step closer to the door, a little bit ahead of the others, and the same thing sort of happens that happened before. The pupils of his eyes expand outwards until they almost fill the whites. But this time I think there's like a small sort of pinpoint of like bright blue light that appears in the center of each one. I'm going to spend another mana to use Dark Vision, which lets me see through walls, according to this description.
Valuables, dangers, and hazards such as security systems. Okay. You see a few different things. As your eyes are focusing on this wall itself, it's almost like the wall doesn't become like translucent, but it's almost like you can see the outline of important things inside. You can see there is a camera hidden up at the top near this door, looking down at the room. In fact, you're probably visible in this camera, but you see inside the outline of a figure. You can see what looks like would be some sort of monitor or maybe alarm attached to the camera itself, but this figure is facing away from that. They're kind of hunched over. They almost look like they're tinkering with something. They don't appear to notice that anyone is this close. And other than that, you see plenty of valuables inside of this room as well. Many things are pinging in that regard, but just because everything in here is worth a lot of money.
Totally fair. The first thing Turk is going to say, I think, is just camera. And then There's someone in there.
Those are both
Can't-
manageable problems.
I can't tell who it is or what they're doing, but there's someone in there.
If I can get you inside, can you fuck their shit up, Gracie?
Oh. It would be my pleasure.
Turk will reach under his coat and pull out the rifle and sort of shrug and say, unless anybody has a more elegant solution.
I might. As I am versed in many kinds of tinkering things, would it be possible for me to use far reach to pull the camera off the ceiling without tripping the alarm?
I love that.
So I maybe worm my way underneath and tinker the alarm off before I yank it out. I don't know.
Yeah. I will say you can definitely spend the mana to use far reach. The tinker will require a roll.
I figured.
But yeah, absolutely.
Now, another question. Would this count as a type of lock? Maybe. It's locking us out of safety, Carrie.
Why do you ask?
Because I have a thing.
What kind of a thing?
Dark inspiration. You have an extraordinary talent for craft and artistry, heightened by the void's touch upon your mind. Select a single one of your focuses with a creative application in mind. When you make a skill check, you gain 1 automatic success. So I have engineering, locks, void lore, and explosives, and I took it on locks. It's super cool. You can say no. I will not be
But I
like a
like it
fist
though.
fighter.
I'm just trying to.
Okay, here's a justification that makes sense.
Okay.
A lock is a finesse thing. The other stuff is like booms and whatever. This is like
Booms.
finesse and small details, you know? Like, it makes sense.
That's enough for me.
Hell yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I have 1 success automatically with locks. And so I add, so if I have focuses and it's 5 on locks. Mhm.
Okay, so if you roll below a 5, that's a critical success.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so just add your skill and style together, and that's your target number.
Okay, I'm gonna try and do it quietly because that is the most logical way to do it. Because of my bone charm is kind of has been stitched really poorly into the lining of my hat. But when I try and do things quietly, I get an extra d20 in my pool.
Amazing.
All right. I have 2 crits.
So a crit counts as 2 successes.
So
You technically
5
have what,
total.
5 successes right now?
Uh-huh.
Amazing. So you can spend 2 of those to establish a new truth about the scene if you would like to, or you can just store all the extra ones for.
I would like to use one of my 3 extra successes for the truth that Avery Kingsley has gotten so very tired of the noise and ruckus of the party, being surrounded by people when he's used to his calm, quiet home, that he, as we can see on the monitors, has told his guards he wants some time alone, and he's coming upstairs for some alone time.
Amazing. And what does this look like as Ephid is using Far Reach and finishing this task?
It starts out kind of like their ghost word did previously. They're kind of whispering, and instead of kind of glossing over gray, their eyes start to just bleed black from the outside in. And their broken left arm, they're using their crutch in a slightly different way. They've got it kind of bound to their upper arm so that they can put the weight on their upper arm rather than the broken lower part of it. And they bring that hand up kind of using the crutch as an extension of their arm, and from kind of the tip, these wisps start coming out and circle the bulb of the security camera and just bleed into it and corrupt it down to shattered plastic and corroded metal. And it yanks out of the ceiling and slides back up into the crutch, storing the ruined pieces of technology within it for maybe another purpose, another time.
Amazing. And all of this is damn near silent as the rest of you just watch it happen.
Love to watch a master work.
Thank you. Now it's my turn to watch you.
Gracie is going to very gently put her hand on the door. Is it locked?
No.
Beautiful. What an idiot. And she resists the urge to literally kick the door in because that would be loud and draw attention, I guess. But instead, she she draws herself up to her full height, I'm imagining double doors, takes both handles and just scoots them open and just steps inside straight towards him.
As you step in, you see this room is quite large as well, but you see it is a cluttered mess. There's a desk somewhere, but it looks like if you gave Ephid this room and gave them like a week, this is what it would, that's exactly what this looks like. You see the only difference is nothing is like greasy or grimy. Everything is clean and pristine in here. So while it's messy, there's still this like clinical aspect to it all. You see brass, silver, gold, a whole bunch of different kinds of there's iron, there's too many things to count as you're just glancing into this room. But you see what Turk saw. There's a man kind of crouched over. He has those glasses on that like have the different magnifying lenses, and he seems to be like working on something very precise, and it sparks as you enter, and he goes, I said I wanted to be alone. And he glances over and sees you.
It's almost a blink and you'll miss it, but it's not actually a blink. And there's a little cloud of coal dust as she scoots her way kind of behind him and just grips him by the throat, his back against her, and pulls him into the middle of the room and says, looking over at the other three, shall I do the honors?
Excuse me, how did you get up here?
I wasn't talking to you.
No, I was talking to you.
She squeezes tighter.
Okay.
Above the table question. Is this Avery Kingsley?
It's a room labeled Avery Kingsley.
Okay, great. For a second I panicked and I was like, it's a guard. A
You're
guard
just
is
killing a
watching
random
me.
dude.
Yeah, just random.
I mean, they're all bad,
assholes.
but
although that's a good point. I imagine you look at Gracie and she says, "Oh, right, you're Avery, right?"
It seems really dangerous for me to answer that question right now.
I think that's more dangerous if you don't and you aren't.
Right. Right.
The
Yeah.
truth
Right
will set you
now.
free, they say.
I'm Avery. Well, we can make some sort of deal. We can talk. Right.
I expected him to be scarier. He's kind of a bitch.
I didn't.
I think as you say that, Gracie just shrugs and then twists.
And the body falls completely limp.
Well,
This feels too easy.
it does, doesn't it? I'm still
Absolutely
holding
does.
him. Does he have a pulse?
He does not. No, you check. No pulse. You hear whatever he was tinkering with, though. There's some little, like, clicking.
Can I go look at it?
Yeah. What would you like to roll for that? Because I would allow probably any sort of tinker check.
Probably cleverly.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Harry, I've never rolled this well in a game ever. It's a you can't see it. It was a 1.
Nice. Which is a
It looked like I lied, but I
Yes.
promise it was a 1.
critical fucking success. Ephid, as you are looking at this object that he was tinkering with, you're realizing it's a smaller part to a bigger thing. And it's kind of hard for you to tell, but the clicking only started after Avery Kingsley's pulse stopped.
Yeah, it's some kind of a dead man switch. That I don't know what this does. I don't know. Can I tell like what it leads to? Can I make any kind of like educated guess about what it like if it's a part of a like an explosive or if it's a part of some kind of
With a critical success, I would say, yeah, you can definitely. As you're looking at this thing, you're realizing where it is located in the room. It's in like a cubby in the wall. And there's a moment where you're like, that's weird. There are no other cubbies. There are other cubbies. They're just all closed. But in this moment, every single cubby begins to slide open. And you see coming out of the cubbies in these walls large, long-legged mechanical things. Their arms themselves are just long, sharp blades, sharpened on both sides. Both of their arms, you can see, are coming out, ting ting slam into the floor as they are pulling themselves out. They have weird, almost like long mechanical faces with sensors for eyes. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They just keep coming out of the walls. And you hear another loud clang as the bars on the door to leave this area close. The bars from the window close. And you see immediately these clockwork soldiers are advancing on you. Fishgut actually gets the first move here.
Fishgut is, I think, the last one to enter the room, watching this play out slowly, and horror starts to pour into their features as those cubbies click open and as these mechanical soldiers or these clockwork soldiers begin to unfurl at us. And kind of in this moment, kind of feeling that panic rise in them again, a similar feeling to what they felt in the ballroom. Sharp spikes of bone begin to shoot up from the ground. It looks like the spine of a fish. Something spindly and sharp begin to arise, creating this massive bone waste, kind of centered around as many of the clockwork soldiers as she can. This is specifically the ability Bloodbriar, which I'm calling bone waste. You conjure a savage mass of bone spikes that lash out at anything that gets within reach of it, and they impose the immobilized truth upon that creature. Getting out of the bone waste grasp is a difficulty 3 skill test.
Does it say what kind of skill test?
Nope.
Cool. How much, like what radius was that?
It doesn't say.
Okay.
So whatever you think is an appropriate size of bone waste to impose upon the room, and whatever you think is an appropriate amount of mechanical soldiers for Fishgut to have ensorcelled in the bone waste is good by me.
What do you think of, since they're coming from like both sides of the room, what do you think of doing that to one entire side of the room? But like
Love
the other one is still completely open.
Love it.
Cool. Awesome.
And so Fishgut kind of trains her gaze on that side of the room. We kind of see her hands go to her side. Her fingers almost making these kind of jagged spike-like structures like the bones coming up from the ground. She looks intently focused.
Yeah, and you see them trying, like, moving forward, getting stuck in these pieces, hit, and bone, like, shatters and breaks and crumbles down, but they're just not able to quite get through it. When they're realizing they can't just move through it, some of them take a step back, you hear that mechanical choo choo, and then you see them pull back with their bladed arms and just slice, and they just begin slicing this bone. You see shards of bone flying in one direction and the other, as in unison, they are shoo, shoo, shing, just slicing and chopping this bone away. That's all the ones on that side can do. The other ones still advancing. One of them lunges forward, and their arm immediately just juts out towards Gracie, who is the closest one to Avery Kingsley's body. This is obviously like one of the two things these guys can do, so this is definitely a focus. So I got 1 regular success and 1 crit, which is 2 more successes. So, that being said, I get to add to my chaos points. This slash only does 3, and that is your armor.
Good.
Correct. Yeah. So as it slashes, you hear a rip in the fabric, but you were able to get out of the way just in time. It doesn't even slice across your skin, but you hear that rip as just like a corner of this cloak kind of drifts off and falls down onto the floor. The other slash completely misses you, and it slams into the ground. You see the spark, and they pull both back up, and they are in a defensive stance at you, Gracie. You see the other ones, the ones closest to the doors. As that one was attacking Gracie, they all seem to be moving in a almost like flanking position. They are trying to surround you. You see they are moving in equal distances with their arms up to make sure their swords, like their arms, are almost locked together to make sure they are forming a circle around you. And you see a little bit of like an electrical charge pushing through them. And with that, Gracie, it is your turn.
So, the window in here, is it open? Like curtains?
Window in this room is not open. The one in the next room is.
I'm going to assume, but I'm going to ask anyway. Can I see the window? Like,
you cannot.
Okay. Cool. It sounds like there is not a straight shot from me to the gate. Is that right? The door that had the portcullis drop?
I mean, you can try to go under the blades.
So what I'm thinking is Gracie has strength, which is basically the same strength that she had before, but dialed up to 11, where I can do feats of might that can only be dreamt of, which is to say, rip the portcullis up off the ground so everyone can make it through, and we lock the rest of the things in this room.
Hot.
Yeah, thank you. But then y'all don't have to waste extra mana also, because I don't have to spend mana to do that. So, I'm going to use my agility, which means I'm super speedy, to make my way through, pull up that portcullis to let everyone out. And then once everyone's through, slam it down with me on the other side, obviously. That's the plan. So
I would need a roll for getting past the soldiers.
yes. Would that be a move roll by chance?
Sure. Yeah.
Good, because I have an auto success in that. And I will also... Would you allow a move forcefully as I just kind of barrel through?
100%.
Great. Beautiful. That is a success. So I have 1 auto success plus a success.
Fantastic. So what does it look like for the first part as you burst through 2 of these interlocking swords?
So Gracie is still holding Kingsley by the throat because she was checking his pulse just a moment ago. So she's going to use him also almost as a battering ram to protect herself from the blades. And just similar to how she like went shoulder under the guy last last episode, under the guns. She's gonna kind of put herself underneath him, uses him as battering ram, and push their blades aside, chuck him down to the ground when she and she puts her, her hands under the portcullis and starts to lift. Gracie, with this change that's gone through her, she's always been functional muscle. She's spent her life building herself up. But it's almost as if everything has become denser, more solid, and even as it has been ripped and probably a little disheveled in tonight's activities, you can see as she gets her massive hands underneath this thing and pulls, the first couple moments look as if she's straining, and then it's just a easy lift above her head, and she holds it steady as a fucking tree. I will also shout to probably Turk. Grab the body.
Is that your turn?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
I am going to use a chaos point
Fuck.
to add a complication.
Cool.
As this clockwork soldier, the two blades that had parted as you went through, they both turn to you, and you see the electricity surging through these swords, and you see both of them look up, reach, stab into like the bars that you are holding up, and begin pulling it down. And as they're doing so, electricity is surging. Do you want to hold on and take some damage, or do you want to...
Please. Gracie holds on. Please.
Armor does not soak this type of damage. How much stress do you have total?
8.
Good, because you're going to take 6.
Cool. Love that.
No.
Your hands, there's smoke that comes off of them as you are holding on. Go ahead and I would like you to make a competing roll to see if you can withstand their strength based on the pain that you're taking.
Fight forcefully?
Yes.
So I have 2 successes in that.
I also got 2 successes, so I'm going to use another chaos point to buy another die.
Do we have momentum? Can I use
You do
momentum?
have
Yeah,
momentum.
yeah,
You can buy another die.
Yeah. Does anyone mind?
Fucking do it, dude.
It's a little important.
Yeah, please.
That's a 7.
So success?
And I only rerolled 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I rolled a natural 20, which is a critical failure. So, Gracie, tell me what this looks like.
So Gracie deadlifts this fucking thing and pulls herself onto the other side, holds it up so the others can rush through. And these clockwork things touch, and electricity starts to flow, and you can see her hair that is slicked back starts to crackle a little bit, even from all of the gel that she uses to slick it back. And smoke comes off of her hands. And everything, the cords of muscle down her neck and her face just tense. And then she screams this deep primal almost growl, similar to what you heard when she was told that Harlem was dead and that Turk had fucked up real bad last time. And she pushes even harder, and the portcullis hits the ceiling, and something the parts of the blades that are touching hit the wood and get stuck in the wood of the door frame, and the electricity stops flowing as they make contact.
Fucking fantastic. Let's see. Effet and Turk. You go at the same time.
Turk would basically look at Effed and say, move. I'll cover you.
I'm going to go for the door, and just keep Fishgut in eye line right now. That's my whole thing.
And Turk, you want to hold so that Fishgut gets out?
I would like to, yeah, before I do anything.
Perfect. In that case, Fishgut, it's your turn.
She seems to be very slow in registering what is going on with everyone else in the room, and she kind of stumbles forward a step or two, wiping some blood from her nose as it begins to drip down. I misread how much mana some of the things she's done took, so she's taken a little bit of stress as a result of some of the powers that she has utilized. So she stumbles forward, but sees Gracie holding the line, and I think gets kind of a sense of what Turk and Evit are thinking, and she starts to run, but as she does, she just kind of looks back with a little bit of, once again, that concern in her eyes, still trying to focus on the bone waste that's holding back some of the soldiers.
At that point, I'm going to use another chaos point to add another complication.
You don't have to do that.
Not at all.
And these clockwork soldiers break their hold with each other. The electricity stops surging, but you see 4 of them now move to stand in front of the doorway and block Fishgut's exit. They also block Ephid's line of sight. Ephid and Gracie, you are on one side. Fishgut and Turk, you are on the other. Fishgut, please continue.
And Fishgut, I think, was starting to stammer something out, but now she has a new problem. Fishgut is, I think, going to try to worm her way through and just try to put her feet to the ground and run. She does not want to fight them.
Okay. What would you like to roll to try to get through them?
Move swiftly.
Let's go for it.
This is she's a 5, but she has advantage on, or can reroll the dice on all swiftly checks because of her bone charm. So, okay, we got a 10 and a 2. I'm going to reroll the 10 and get a 13, so I have 1 success.
Okay. Many things happen simultaneously here. Different things noticed by different people. Fishgut, you see this problem appear, 4 of these things, and you know 2 more are behind them, but they're stuck up in the thing. You see their legs, they're small enough, you can probably get through them, and without thinking much more about it, you run. You run and you get down low, you're trying to move through them, you're trying to avoid the blades that are slicing down, you can hear them sliding through the air, slamming and sparking into the ground as they hit. But you're moving. You're moving. You feel a blade slam down and hit your cloak and like rip the corner of it off as you are pushing through. You're hitting your elbows, you're hitting your shoulders, but you're pushing through. Turk, you were instructed, well, you heard Gracie at least say, get the body. And I think your attention moves to Avery Kingsley's body, where you see Killian Blackford standing over it. You see him removing a ring from Avery Kingsley's hand and putting it onto his own finger. You see the gem that was in it glows and then boils into black. And as that does so, you see him clench his fist, and the veins blacken as they're moving up his arm and disappear into his clothing. But then, after a short time, you see the veins moving up into his neck, eventually getting to his eyes, where he blinks, and as he opens them, they're all black as they look up at you, Turk. Ephid. After your view was blocked there's this panic, this moment of like, oh God, how are they going to get out? There's too many of them. There's too many of them. Your mind is rushing into a million different places. Gracie, you're realizing as you're holding this up, you don't really have to hold it anymore because the way their arms are jammed up into this thing, it's kind of holding it for you. You couldn't close that even if you tried. So there's this moment. You're hearing Fishgut moving through. And Fishgut, you're able to come out the other side, but as soon as you do, I'm going to make a very important roll. How much stress do you have left, Fishgut?
We're gonna say 5.
Okay. How much armor do you have?
3.
Perfect. Okay. So
Wait, hold on. Fishgut's just wearing a fancy dress.
okay.
I meant to say that I brought their armor.
Yes,
I literally wrote
yes.
it down when we were talking about this plan. I was like, bring Fishgut's armor. And then I didn't say anything, but the intention was to bring it.
You said you took the mask off, which is basically the same thing as saying I put the armor on.
It's a costume change. We had a costume change moment.
Yeah, we had a costume change.
Okay, I'm gonna say we flash back, and as Ephid is removing the video camera, we see blurred in the background Fishgut just changing back into armor.
This was Blades in the Dark. It's okay for us to flash back.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Fishgut
that
does
case,
keep the mask.
I
though.
promise I wrote it down beforehand.
I believe you. I
pinky
believe you.
promise.
In that case, there's this moment where all of you are shocked as you see a blade slice through what you think is Fishgut's side. There is this slice, this rip in the fabric, but then as you stand there for a moment longer and the blade rips back out, Fishgut, there was no pain. It just got the armor, and you're able to stumble out with the rest of them. Turk, you were holding your turn.
Turk looks at Blackford. And that looks bad. But I do not have time to unpack any of that right now. So Turk is going to react on instinct, and I think what Turk is going to do is sort of seeing, hopefully, I don't know if he can see it, but he saw Ephid go through, he saw Fishgut start to go through, all he can really do is hope that they got to the other side. What he is going to do is try to run towards the press of robots at the portcullis and drop into a slide. And I'm hoping between their long, spindly legs, I can see enough of the other room to blink through.
Ooh. I like it. I would like some sort of roll for the slide first.
Okay. That is totally fair. I think I would like to move swiftly. I got one success. Do we still have momentum?
You do.
Do I need more than one? Okay.
Yeah, I am rolling against you.
Okay.
And for now, I have 2 successes.
Cool. All right. But I do have agility, which gives me an automatic success on move.
Awesome.
So that would be 2 successes without spending momentum. Shit. I thought that was a 1. It's a 7, but that's still a success.
All right, I'm gonna use another chaos point. And
Don't
roll
do that.
the die. This is a very important roll.
Roll another nat 20.
My target is a 13. Oh, and I got a 3. My focus is a 4, so that is a crit.
So that's 2 more successes.
That's 2 more
We
successes.
have 2 more momentum left. We can
Yeah,
just
I guess we're gonna keep rolling off.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'll
This is
spend
important.
another.
We can't help in any way. There's no reaction situation
You
right
can't even see what's going on.
But very important question. I have a focus in acrobatics that might qualify here.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, My acrobatics focus is 3, and I just rolled a 2.
So that's 2 successes.
So I still have to spend another momentum and succeed to get away with this.
Last one, let's go.
I also am gonna use
Okay.
another chaos point, motherfucker.
How do void points work? Can I spend those to do things?
Void points. Void points, you can gain a critical success instead of a normal success.
Okay. Could I retroactively?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that 1 void point? 5 to 4 right now.
Okay. I just fucking rolled a 4. I'm not kidding. So that's a crit. Puts me
Okay.
at 6.
All right. Okay.
We still have 2 momentum.
I
And
know.
you should
well,
still
no, I
have
spent
2
I
void
spent one of
points.
those momentum already, I think. Or
Yeah.
yeah. So I think we're down to 1 momentum, I think. I think this is
We
our
started
last
with
momentum.
3. You spent
Okay.
1.
Right.
We have
You're
2 right now. We're
2
doing
right
great.
now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That is not a crit, but I will spend another void point to make it 1.
All right.
Okay.
You gonna make me use another chaos point? Because I'll do it.
You don't have to. You could choose not to.
Doing it.
Just let it happen.
That's a 2.
Nat 20.
That's a
Oh,
2,
fucker.
motherfucker.
Stop it, Carrie.
We have 1 more
There's a
momentum.
Take
7.
this.
We
I
have 1
can't
more
take
momentum,
this.
and you have another void point.
I know, but
For
I
every
can't-
crit,
We're not taking these
gain
characters
chaos
anywhere.
points, by the way.
I
For
can't
every
do
crit
this.
I get, I gain
Please.
chaos points.
Oh no. Okay, so you could just do this forever. You have to stop rolling well eventually, though.
That's true. The odds.
I also have to stop rolling well eventually. All right. Well, I'll do this until we run out of momentum, I guess. Which I think is 1. We have 1 left.
Mhm.
Last one. That is a 7. I have 1 void point left. I'll spend it.
That puts you at a 9.
I
Yes.
think so. Yeah. Which I mean,
Okay. I'm gonna use
you have to fail
my
eventually.
chaos point. I have 3 chaos points left.
Sure.
After using this one, I'll have 2. So here's this one.
And your target number is 13.
Yep. That's a 9. So still a regular success, which brings me to a 9.
9 to 9.
I'll use another. Ooh. I am not even fucking lying right now. I just rolled a natural 1. I'm not fucking lying. I am not lying to you right now. These are the hell dice. These are the hell dice.
Of course they're hell
Fuck
dice.
those dice. Just throw them out.
Okay. I have nothing left that I can do. So,
Knowing that Turk is not going to make it out of this room,
mhm.
I want to know how you would describe this fighting tooth and nail to get through these clockwork soldiers.
I think what will probably happen, I think what makes the most sense is that Turk does what I described. Turk waits for Ephid and Fishka to get through, or at least start the process of getting through, and then takes a runs towards the press at the portcullis and drops into a slide and starts to blink, starts to like do the swirl of feathers thing as he is going, and I can only assume that one of the robots that has broken out of Fishgut's trap kind of like catches him full tilt from the side and throws him off completely. And what I would like to do is use I think Turk will give Gracie, I think if we can meet eyes, even with the robots pressed around her, their eyes kind of lock, and Turk looks sad and sort of shakes his head. And then I'm going to try to use Far Reach, which this is kind of a weird use of far reach because far reach explicitly kind of lets you grab something from far away and pull. I'm thinking the way that Turk expresses far reach is different. I think what he does is he slides across the ground, comes up to like a sitting position, kind of on his elbows, makes that look with Gracie, and then lines up his rifle. And then he is gonna fire not at Gracie, because I don't think he has a clear shot. But I think using the power, the bullet is gonna ricochet off of a bunch of different things, and is gonna hit Gracie right in like the chest, where he knows she stashes the flask, with enough force to knock her off of her feet so that the portcullis falls.
I love that. I think we hear that final ting and Gracie is pushed back just a little bit. With all of the weight, the blades themselves actually snap off of the two that are stuck into the wood, and the portcullis does fall. Boom! Slam heavily down. At this point, you hear many voices coming from the stairs. Guards are coming up. Gracie, Fishgut, and Ephid. There's no path to Turk. The guards are coming. What do you do?
Quick, think. Do we have any options to get to Turk?
Gracie has never been, like, physically aggressive towards either of you, but in this moment, she takes Ephid by the arm and Fishgut at the same time, and, like, moves you both towards, like, pushes you both towards the window. Take Fishgut. Go.
What?
Fucking go!
Gracie.
Now!
Ephid's gonna shake the crutch that they had tied to their arm off their arm and shove it into your hand and put your finger on a little switch on the back of it. It's not much, but it'll do some kind of damage. I snuck some other treats in too.
You get gone. And she's gonna barrel through.
Fuck, fight better than you do in the pits.
Can I far reach to help her and then blink Fishgut and I out? I'll kind of just like out in the middle of the hallway right before the door. You see like just like black spider webs kind of fill the space. And as soon as anyone touches them, it's like one wall of movement shoves everything back.
Yeah, you see all of the guards kind of push back, stumbling into each other, catching each other, leaning up against this wall.
I'll hook my arm around Fishgut's neck, my broken, crutchless arm, and I'll just pull her down into a hug, and shadows just swallow us. And then another blob of shadows alights on a roof, close enough to see something, anything, if our friends come out, and it dissipates, and Ephid's still holding onto Fishgut, kind of just leaking tears.
Turk. One of these clockwork soldiers, they did like jam into your side, but you don't really feel it. Your focus was on getting Gracie out. You did that, or at least you did what you could for that. And this soldier pulls you backwards, pushes down to where the blade comes out of your side, and you are slammed down onto your back on the floor. And you see 4 of these soldiers stepping up over you. All of them raise their blades, and as they are going to slice them down, you hear a very loud, like a parry. And you see one really large, almost silver gauntlet has come down to block all of these blades from slamming into your wrist. As it's blocked, the fist clenches and there's a pulse, almost like an electromagnetic pulse, and all 4 of these bots stiffen and kind of back up a little bit. They seem to be malfunctioning in some way. And as you look up, the gauntlet pulls back and you see Harlow standing over you. She reaches down a fist and she says, "Get the fuck up now."
Turk is at a loss for words. I think Turk is not sure that this is real.
Up, Hancock!
And he will stand up. He will listen to Harlow.
She does the same thing that you did in the alleyway. As soon as you're up, her back goes to you, and she brings up her gauntlets from either side. And you see all of these clockwork soldiers, well, the ones that aren't destroyed, are all turning towards you to fight. Gracie, I need a roll from you, please.
Is this to get into the room? Because I have a very specific method. Okay. So here's the thing, though. I have far reach. I have dark vision. And the funny thing about secure rooms is they don't usually secure the walls. So Gracie, as she watches Ephid and Fishgut disappear, that's it. Her focus is now getting into Turk. So she backs up against the farthest wall, and then she takes her hands and kind of pushes out, almost Spider-Man-esque, but it's lines of charcoal, as if someone has taken a pencil and just drawn a line straight through. And then she pulls with far reach, and she goes straight through that wall in a cloud of dust and whatever was hanging on the other side. And she does kind of a superhero landing next to Turk, stands up and looks down at him before even noticing Harlow. Says, "That was a fucking good shot. What the fuck are you doing? Let's get out of here." And then she sees Harlow and she freezes in shock and says, I got right.
I got left.
Ephid was embracing Fishgut, and she's still feeling kind of like feeling a little bit shaky from maybe tapping into this new power a bit more than she should have. And she kind of falls to her knees, and I think she's kind of reached up and grabbed Ephid and maybe kind of ends up maybe pulling them down, so both of them are just kind of collapsed together on this roof, feeling the rain on their skin. And Fishgut feels that her face is getting wet, not just from the rain, but also kind of sharing those tears as well. Not sure what to say, because it feels like Turk is gone, and sure does feel like we're about to lose Gracie too.
Get us back. I shouldn't have run. I can get us back. And they're kind of like leaking, like alongside the normal tears on the outside. It's just like black, kind of wisping into the tears. I can, if I use a little more energy, I can get us back. And we just left them there. We just went because they told us to. What the hell?
Gracie throws a real sick punch. I'm never gonna stop making fun of her for it, but she really does think she can do some work in there. We're going. We're gonna hope they make it out.
Wait, I have an idea.
What's that?
The guards are coming to fuck shit up, right? So we give them something else to focus on. And Ephid pulls out 2, like, frag grenades out of their bag, basically.
You know what? That seems a lot more fun than crying.
Yeah, it does.
As Gracie puts her back to the other 2, she grabs on to Harlow's left arm and Turk's right, and her eyes travel out the hole that she just made in the wall.
Oh, dude.
The hole that has a perfect line of sight out the window. And in a puff of charcoal dust, we disappear into the night.
I'd like to think that the three of them, as you're having this conversation, you're holding up these grenades, you're facing the building itself, and you hear the familiar sound of Gracie's blink behind you. On the same rooftop, and as you turn, you see Gracie, you see Turk, and you see Harlow.
The grenades drop out of Effet's hands. They scream louder than anyone's ever heard them scream. And they just throw themselves at the other three.
I told you I was fucking good, right?
I mean, I knew you were good. Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit.
I don't think Turk.
Harlow is muttering something about, I cannot believe you guys actually fucking did this.
I think like as Harlow is like going off and saying all of that, Turk has just kind of been standing there, and he hasn't been able to say like anything this entire time. Even when Gracie showed up, even when they were like getting ready to fight, he was just kind of at a loss for words. And I think as Harlow is like mid talking, he just sort of throws himself at Harlow and like wraps his arms around her, hugs her, and is just crying.
That stops her mid-sentence, probably mid-word, and she just kind of stands there for a minute, and then you just see her eyes close, and like the softest you've ever seen Harlow, and her arms just wrap around, and you've never seen Harlow cry, and you're not about to. Her face just kind of goes into Turk's shoulder instead.
Gracie takes everyone in her giant bear hug and just folding in. Just everyone's in a hug.
Yeah, Fish got in this hug. One of her hands goes to the back of Ethan's hair, mussing it a little bit. And the other one just kind of makes a fist and pounds a couple times at like the top of Gracie's shoulder. But squeezing a little bit. It's affectionate. And then she just kind of shares a glance with Harlow and Turk in turn, kind of in the quiet moments where it's easy to blame any tears on the rain.
I think the camera kind of begins pulling back a little bit, pulling away, but pulling back toward the chaos you just left. But you see Killian Blackford clench his fist again. The ring glows some strange color you can't even really describe. And you see every single Clockwork soldier shut down. He looks at the ring. Well, that'll come in handy. And that is where our story ends. As the audience and the players know, tomorrow will be the first day of a new world order.
I think fish butt. Hey.
I can't say that. That was the weirdest fucking noise.
What was it?
I don't know, actually.
Ghosts of your former character players that
Mhm.
have died or are coming to protect us in this moment.
Okay, calm down, Effin.
Fuck yeah.
Damn.
Join
Well
us
done.
for newer world order.
Part 2.
In which
Yeah.
we kill our new dad.
Yeah.